Good evening and welcome to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for joining us for this program. And of course, I want to thank you for, Jerry George, who held on so ably for the last 2 weeks while I was gone. From all indications, Jerry did a fantastic job. So I had to run back before you got too used to him. So thank you very much, my good friend Jerry George, for sitting in over the past 2 weeks. Very thought-provoking discussions that he had. One first, of course, with the NCF and the National Telethon, and last week with the Mico North MP, Dr. Gail Rigobert. So, special thanks to you, Jerry. This evening, we want to talk about consumer affairs, and this comes in light of the fact that CFL, Consolidated Foods Limited, has bought over GL Food Market. That company not doing as well as it thought that it could have done in this local market, opening in 2010. Now, we invited Mr. Michael Shastney to be here with us this evening, but unfortunately he could not make it this time around, but he has promised that in the next couple of weeks he will be available to speak with us on that issue, and of course, like we do with him, a number of other issues that are relevant to the St. Lucian public. Joining us this evening, though, is the Vice President of the National Consumer Association, Mr. Mathiaus Polius, and we want to talk about a few consumer-related issues with him. The announcement that rice, flour, and sugar has gone up in price. Of course, the buyout of GL Food Market by Consolidated Foods. And we want to touch a bit on the consumer aspects of that recent report which was unveiled in the House of Assembly, talking about the rural council, rural village councils, and the allocation of funds, of misappropriation, and I use that word very loosely, of funds as far as that report suggested. So, welcome, Mr. Polius, to the show. It's nice to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
It's nice being here.
Let's start with the merger. Well, it's not a merger, it's actually a buyout. GL Food Market in the supermarket industry for the last 3 years or so, but not able to sustain itself, and CFL buying it out. I mean, from a consumer standpoint, what does the NCA make of that move? CFL being the dominant player in the market and now taking over GL Foods.
From the consumer point of view, our major fear is the potential for the absence of choice. One of the fundamental rights of consumers is to be able to have choice among a variety of goods in order they can select at will. When you have a situation where one dominant player, where you have a situation where you have just one dominant player, there's a potential for that choice of products to be eliminated, thus preventing consumers from having that variety to choose from. It also means that with that domination, there's a potential for price increases at will. Again, and this is because of the absence of competitors. Where you have competition, that can tend to lower the price because people are aware that there are other supermarkets out there and people have choices and they can choose. So that is the other thing. So we have two major issues at stake here. One, the absence of potential choice for the consumer and the possibility for increased prices. Well, we are hoping that the latter doesn't take place, but these things do happen in real life.
But I mean, this consolidation or growth of Consolidated Foods, as it were, did not come about because of any specific activity undertaken. And I don't want to say that their marketing efforts were not effective. That's not the point I'm making. But in terms of going out and underpricing to force GL out of the market, we did not see that happening, or this was not evident. It was just a matter of this new entity not being able to get a foothold, especially having only one branch in the north of the island. How do you see that? How do you view how the acquisition took place, considering it was not a forceful takeover, it was not one that was manipulated by CFL and one that was forced upon GL. It was just a matter of pure economics on the part of GL to say, okay, we're not competitive in this industry, so let's pull out.
Well, it's unfortunate that that situation had to occur. As you rightly said, this supermarket was just not doing well. We mustn't forget that in the north, there are already 2 branches of Super J. Plus you have Mega J. Gablewoods Mall, is that what it is, Gablewoods?
Mega J's? No, that's a Chalk.
Yeah.
Plus you have Gablewoods. So
that's right. So although you have the purchasing power, the major purchasing power of the island located up north, and you had quite a few supermarkets there already, given the size of the size of the population in the northern part of the country. But when I take, you have one at Vite-Bouteille, you have one at Shock, then you have 2 at Rodney Bay, plus Mega J, that's 5 of one company, plus you have GL Foods. So the question is, what market share is that GL Foods really going to get, given that you have all these other supermarkets there already?
Well, I mean, for people who are looking for variety, I mean, that's what GL offered.
That is correct. But then in terms of market share, because we must not forget to, I'm not in the supermarket business, but as far as I have read and I have been told, supermarkets are not meant to make high profits on their products. It's more, you make your money more on turnover, volume. Now, if you do not have the market share or the population size to actually get that volume, you might just end up not being profitable. So I would suspect that that may just be a major factor in terms of the situation with GL Foods.
Now, in terms of the NCA and its advocacy, I mean, what really are you looking at with this development where you have one major player in the supermarket industry? What are the things, what are the pointers that you're looking to ensure that, as you indicated earlier on, that there will not be any price gouging, there would not be, there is a variety of products in the supermarkets for the consumers?
Well, when it comes to the variety of products on the market, there's very little that we can do. But in terms of preventing the price gouging, what we can do is liaise with government as much as possible to encourage them to re-examine the number of items under price control. Because when you have a situation like that, the authorities have 2 avenues. Moral suasion, to make them aware that you have a monopoly, but it is incumbent upon you as its citizen not to exploit the situation, not to take advantage of the citizens. So you have to tell them that, and also importantly, to preclude the possibility of any abuse of the prices, you look at the items under price control. Already we have a situation where we have 25 items, as far as I've been told. 25 items, but these have major categories under price control. And it brings me to that area where that may be an opportune time for the Commerce Department to re-examine the number of items you have under price control.
But it's not too much government control, because we're excluding the responsibility of the consumers almost totally here, where consumers have the power not to buy, to refuse to buy items if they think that they're too pricey, if they think that they're not necessary, if they think that there is an abuse in the pricing structure. So, I mean, shouldn't consumers be more responsible instead of laying all that responsibility on the government to dictate to an independent business how it should operate?
You are correct on the one hand, but on the other hand, let us look at a basic item like oil.
But it's not under price control. I mean,
I'm not sure. But then let us, if it is not, what alternative do you have? What alternative do you have? You cannot use anything but oil in your cooking. So in some cases, you just don't have a choice. For example, when people go to the supermarket on Sundays, especially where people move from lower to middle income, quite a few of them, for example, eat macaroni and cheese on Sunday. They may just eat that one day a week. Now, cheese is already under price control, yes, but if it was not under price control, and there's only one source for that cheese, you have virtually no choice. So so some items, they are so essential, and there are so few alternatives for them that the government has very little choice but to actually put them under price control.
But isn't it about acquired taste? I mean, we have, as consumers, got to a point where we expect to get certain commodities. We expect a certain price range for those commodities, and because of our expectations, we place unrealistic and unnecessary demands. I mean, yes, we enjoy our macaroni and cheese on Sundays, we enjoy the meat on other days, but then if those commodities increase in price to the point where they become unaffordable for our budgets, I mean, we need to consider other options. We need to consider sardines, probably. We need to consider the breadfruits and the root products, the yams and the dashings and that sort of thing. I mean, are we just too spoiled as a people? You know, we complain a lot, but then, you know, we say the economy is bad. We complain that there's no money, but then there's a party every weekend, and we're at every party every weekend. Isn't that a consumer issue?
Well, what I would answer to that, there are some products, for example, I give you the example of cheese. Now, cheese is high protein, very compact protein, very, although it has, cheddar cheese has a 45% fat, but still the fat actually helps to fill you. But then also it has the protein and the calcium, which is very important for our body. Now, apart from milk, there are very few products that come close to cheese that can do what you are accustomed to doing in cooking, as well as give you the nutrients for the price you are paying for it. So here is the dilemma. It is true, yes, let us say, like, you may want to stop saying, well, I'm going to stop using cheese, but what are your alternatives? What are your alternatives? Are you saying that you're not going to eat macaroni and cheese? Well,
now, has the Consumer Association, from your standpoint, undertaken a study per se to say, okay, well, these are the foods that we eat normally, but here are some alternatives to those foods which can be attained or be acquired at a cheaper rate?
No, we have not done any such studies, but I'm sure.
And is that something that you might consider in the interest of consumers?
Yes, we can, in association with the certain like organizations like possibly the Ministry of Health, because you must not look at food just as an item. You have to look at it in terms of nutrient intake, its nutritional value. When you substitute in, you have to look at the thing in terms of what exactly are you taking inside of you. It's not just eating for the sake of eating sick. Especially in these days, we have to be worried about obesity and these other problems. So if we substitute in, we have to be very careful about what are we substituting with. It's not just taking one item and saying, well, you cannot eat green figs, so buy dashin. Somebody will tell you no, because the nutrients in the green figs may be different from the nutrients in the dashin. You may be a person suffering from high blood, from diabetes, and you may find that the starch content in the dashin is too high for you to eat. So you have little choice but to eat the green banana instead, because it hasn't got as much starch in it. So you have to watch what exactly that you are eating.
You're watching Newsmaker Live. My guest today is Mathiaus Polius. He is the Vice President of the National Consumer Association. When we come back, we'll ask whether there has been any dialogue between the principals of CFL, Consolidated Foods Limited, and the Consumer Association to discuss this very important and major development with the takeover of GL Food. Also, we'll be discussing rice, flour, and sugar, the increase in price for consumers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.